Okay, so who remembers the big red book of all knowledge? Pretty much everyone I show this to has a knee-jerk reaction of joy and nostalgia. Released around 1997 and composed by Nigel Stillman, this is fondly remembered as one of Games Workshop's more inspired publications. Predominantly because, aside from a few OCP Directive 4 moments, where it can't quite let itself be entirely crafty and carefree, it's genuinely, well, genuine. It's a genuine attempt to show how Wargames terrain is made. In this video, we're going to take a few of the fantasy ideas and builds from the book and bring them to life on the tabletop. The only real rule we have is to keep it 90s and keep it classy. Well, about as classy as a green roll battle mat can be anyway. And of course, cardboard. Lots and lots of cardboard. I'm going to use cardboard as much as I can, but to be honest, it is probably the worst material that you can use for basing large pieces of terrain. It's weak to start with, but adding a load of moisture to cardboard makes it even worse. Yeah, nothing quite as frustrating as building terrain on the clock, and the next day you might be playing terrain warp roulette. First up, we're going to try ourselves a river and bridge crossing, fairly faithful to the one in the book. Cardboard base, cardboard banking, and a little trick from further along in the book is to use masking tape to create the tougher edges to your builds. Masking tape is somewhere between paper and plastic, and as such it seems to have the best of both. Good rigidity when covered with PBA and slightly absorbent, and solid resistance to scratches and damage. Okay, so let's have a little bish on one of these burial mounds. Again, more cardboard, layered up in a wedding cake style. And then to level all of that out, liberal applications of masking tape again. For our front facade, we framed the opening with orchid bark and use a polystyrene plate, textured with tinfoil, as a little door. An all-purpose ground texture and filler, according to the Magic Red Book, is a mixture of PVA, tile grout, and sand. As we'll see later on, I really do like the end result and texture that this mixture leaves us with. But to work with, it is genuinely fucking horrendous. It's beyond sticky and gloopy, and it doesn't take direction especially well. Sure, it's cheap and in near infinite supply, but it's definitely only coming out for special occasions. Yeah, so you might have guessed that this video is going to be a little bit scatterbrained and all over the place, and I would apologise, but I'm not going to do. My workflow is to essentially be doing the long drying stuff early on, so that by the time we're ready to move on, that stuff is dried and it's ready for us to go with. So we are going to segue into rocks and boulders, yeah, the all-purpose cavity gaming table insulation. Pun intended, of course, as we're using this prison grade insulation foam that I pulled out of a skip. Once they're resembling peeled potatoes, rough them up with some tinfoil and give them the old sneaky Jeremy with a coat of black paint and gloss Mod Podge for solvent protection later on.
What's up guys, Tony Boomtown here, back in perpetual forward motion, and I'm here today to talk to you about my second favorite thing in the world, Squarespace. Have you ever dived headfirst into the muck Have you ever dived headfirst into the murky world of web design and thought to yourself, I have no idea what I'm doing? Well, join the party. That was until I met Squarespace. With Squarespace on my side, I'm going to have no problem designing the website of my dreams. Because with Squarespace, I can pick from a massive selection of templates made by award-winning designers and customize them in near infinite possibilities and combinations. Wait, that ain't even the best part, guys. I want to use a website to advertise my less than reputable side hustle, and I can do this with a free head, and I can do this with a fresh and funky portfolio page, a blog, or maybe even a news section. That's incredible. All of this and more within a super compact browser-based web designer. Wow. And say that business ever wanted to go online for sales and moving certain objects onto interested buyers? Well, now it can. Because of the Squarespace got that fully integrated eShop online shop thing system. It's just ready to go, guys. It's an online store, okay? And I can upload my shop's existing EPOS system, all my stock, amounts, volumes, prices, all immediately uploaded onto my website with one click. Boom, maybe 3 clicks. And of course, guys, we got to talk about the domain acquisition tab. Come up with a snazzy name for your website or just use the business's existing name. Check availability and immediately link it to your page and the rest of the world. Stop it. You can only make it so easy. It's too easy. So come on down to the Squarespace website and emporium at www.squarespace.com/MSPaints and use the code MSPaints at checkout to save yourself 10% off your first website subscription or domain.
Yeah, trees. Nobody's especially bothered about trees anymore, but these bog brush style trees are a staple of any 90s wargaming table. And these guys are actually genuine Citadel trees from maybe like 2000, 2001 at a guess, maybe earlier. I've had them in the bag for years and figured, well, now's probably the best time to use them. Simple case of hot gluing these onto some MDF discs from the craft shop, and the only real thing of note that I'm doing here is using the hot glue to ease the baseline between the disc and the tree base. Christ, I almost forgot the skulls. It's 90s Warhammer, so regardless of your terrain's context or your own ambitions on storytelling, we have got to smash skulls on absolutely everything. Is it a humble village shrine on the outskirts of a settlement? Yeah, fuck it, bang some skulls on there. Just put skulls on everything. Okay, not that you guys are dying to know where I'm getting these large terrain bases from, but they came from this guy, the Kidditech Q1 Pro. Yeah, I've been sent another 3D printer to review, but unlike the last one that I got sent, this one actually works properly. And most importantly, it wipes its own arse before printing. It's all about the quality of life improvements, guys. All joking aside, this is an RRP £450 PLA printer that's probably the most pleasant setup and go experience that I've had. It basically sets itself up, levels its bed automatically after the arse wiping thing, and it hasn't really failed me yet. After the X+3 they sent me last year, this is super refreshing to have a printer that is completely idiot-proof. It's also super fast and attempts to rival the Bamboo Lab stuff, but with a slightly better price point. Oh, and well done Kidditech for putting the filament mount somewhere that I can actually reach it without pulling the whole unit out. This is a welcome improvement, but also kinda one of the most obvious ones. But hey, yeah, compared to the last one they sent, this thing just gets on with it, and it never gives me any trouble. The Kidditech Q1 Pro, highly recommended. Prints are nice and about as smooth as you'd expect from plastic printing these days. Nothing game changing, but again, quality of life and easy to use, and it is fast as fuck. and that's a winner for me. Alright now, speaking of skulls, we've found ourselves a cheeky bit middle hammer terrain to smash on there, the Darkstone Blight, or in non-directive 4 language, Spooky Tower. Then we've got to make ourselves some simple ramshackle bridges for our boulder tops and rivers. Super simple, super cheap. It's just strips of balsa, cut to eyeball size and distances and super glued together. Okay, as much as I would like to populate a table with Jedi Knight and Land of Law 3 looking terrain, we're going to try a hand at just some cardboard buildings. Yeah, lots of tables back then had cardboard buildings, and ours is going to be no different. Yeah, you know what? I didn't think I'd be able to just load up cardstock into a regular-ass printer and fire these things out, but here we are in 2024, just hitting print, getting some scissors, getting some glue, and just making it work. And the results are absolutely decent enough for how much it costs and how much it does what I want a cardboard building to be. Very nice. All the individual builds are starting to come together now. Rocks, more rocks in a standing circle, and the PVA and sand ground formations. And at this point I have made way too much for a rank and file game, but for a skirmish game or something like Middle-earth, maybe Frostgrave, we're absolutely golden with this amount of stuff. Okay, that is a lot of stuff. What I'm seeing here is a lot of pent-up frustration after the Helldivers thing, and sitting and just painting like 5 models for God knows how long. And to go back into Blue Peter mode is quite liberating, to the point where none of this, well, some of it will, not all of it, definitely not all of it, is going to fit on the table. Since I'm playing on a table this size, it's going to be quite crowded. There is a right old mishmash of stuff here, and I think I like all of it in a crunchy Blue Peter kind of way. The card buildings are nice, they're a nice surprise considering it's like, what, 6 pence a sheet it costs? Maybe 10 pence if you want to factor in. I think we probably should factor in ink, actually. That's probably about 10 quid a building then. I just remembered I haven't got the rivers and the river bridge on here either. So definitely not all of this is going to fit at all. But the rocks are nice. They're nice and simple. The 3D printed buildings at the front, they're nice. It was really nice to use the Kiditech Q1, which is just fucking idiot proof, but also doesn't require me to have 3D printing as a hobby. I can just push a button and then fuck off and then come back and then it's done it after it's done its little beep thing. It's like, oh, I'm done. Cool. Yeah, well done for not fucking that up. So, Q1, great. And then stuff like the standing stones, which I thought, there's a bit more to that. Half an hour it's taken me to get to that point, where it's basically just sat drying and waiting for some clocking. So I think the last thing that I have to do in terms of build is build the bridge for the river. Yeah, by the time it's done, it'll be like 4 days work for an entire 90s themed Warhammer table. And that's just fine. Okay, let's get some paint on this shit. Since most of it is either rocks or rocky ground, we can prime most of it with black.
What are you working on there, Heck? You draw that yourself? Nice. Should sell that.
Yeah, so everything that's gonna be rock and not green just needs dry brushing really. You start with that black base coat we've got on there, then you move onto a dark grey and that can be overbrushed quite heavily and liberally. Then we pop for a mid-grey and go slightly lighter with this in your application. It's 90s Warhammer terrain, so it can be a little bit cartoony, but you still want to have that nice gradient to it. And then finally, slap the edges with some light grey. Again, you don't need to go too hard. Normally, I like my rocks to be greens and blues and browns and matching the terrain around it. But this is old school, so straight grey is completely fine to this brief.
You just fucking try my door unsolicited?
Yeah. What?
The fuck, man?
Well, it was a surprise visit, so of course I was going to try the door
I
unsolicited.
suppose that is a surprise.
Yeah, because last time I did this, you weren't in, and I'd knocked.
Jesus Christ, I thought unsolicited Zoom calls were bad.
Honestly, I assume we're at a point where this was fine, so it hurts a little bit, honestly, to assume that.
You could leave it open, actually, get some air in.
Yeah, well, I figured you had to go because I can smell the paint from outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's good, that's good.
That's going to be good for the brain. Forget that, this is a job.
It is a job, yeah.
With everything grayscaled up, I'm going to paint some details onto the tower and various other bits. Nothing much of note. Mostly I'm going to be painting fucking skulls. But the rivers need a little bit of that special sauce, so I am hastily slapping on some blue-greens for the edges, and then wet blending and stippling to black for the river's centre. Now it is big green flock blasting time. This stuff is actually woodland scenics despite what it says on there, and I do feel their pain. What we have here is woodland scenics attempting to break out of the railway scenic market and reach for a new audience. I mean, I use their stuff all the time, but I get it. I totally get it. Nothing fancy here, just coat the areas you want flocked with some full strength PVA and just kind of go nuts really. I wish there was some kind of pro gamer skill to this, but really there just isn't. Just smash it on. And as much as I'd love to preserve these undulations on the base. Again, it's 90s, so I'm going to shake it all off and keep it as flat as possible. Last touch, some gloss medium or Mod Podge over the rivers where the water's supposed to be to give them some sheen and some shine. There we do have it, some delightfully on-brief terrain for your older style games of Warhammer, or really any fantasy game that you want will do it really. You could absolutely fill a 6x4 with this and leave a little wiggle room, but for me, I'll probably use it more for skirmish vibes, or like with the Lord of the Rings Strategic Battle Operations Simulator. This has been a great little palette cleanser from a terrain standpoint, just making something for fun really, but also from a YouTube standpoint, where I can go into a project knowing exactly what it needs to look like as an end product. But not only that, I also went into it knowing it only ever needed to look up to a certain standard. Many times I thought about going more ultra realistic with stuff and spending more time on the paintwork, and then I just had to remind myself that towards the end, we are just going to blast this with bright green flock, so really, why worry when it's just going to get covered in that crap anyway? Thanks to my wonderful Patreon community for their ongoing support. I hope to see some of you guys making something similar in the Discord soon. Cheers! I'm out of here.